Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, it is the final week, and we have a little bit less than 1 week actually until you're basically finished. Okay, the showcase is on Tuesday, and hopefully we'll have a really nice crowd for you. The games looked fantastic last night, and we have 1 week left to really get them shining. It's going to be very tempting this week to add new features, okay, to your games. I would encourage you to be very, very careful, okay? Remember, we said this in the playtest, but it takes 1 week to put something in. It takes a second week for it to be any good at all, okay? Instead, this is the perfect week to think about the kind of exterior of your game. What do I mean? Okay. What is the experience of discovering your game? How do people learn about your game? Okay, how does your itch.io page look? What is your trailer going to look like? Okay, is it going to drive people out to play your game right away? Is your title screen going to have the motion and energy and volume and music, right? Audio to pull people in, to get them intrigued. How many booths are you going to have? Well, you're going to have 1 booth, but how many stations, okay? How many people are going to be able to play your game simultaneously? What's your throughput going to be, okay? Are you going to have any team costumes? Are you going to have any cool props at your booth, okay? What's going to get people excited? What's going to make people see your booth as kind of standing out among all the rest, okay? We have some serious competition in this course. We got some very serious competition coming from EMU. This is their best batch of games in a long time. And if we want to keep the crown over here, we're going to have to earn it, okay? And so these are the things that I really recommend you think about this week, okay? Not, think about your game, okay? But also think about everything that surrounds your game. Because that trailer, right? That trailer is how a lot of people are going to experience your game for the rest of your career, right? A lot of people can't download your game. They're not going to be able to install it on a corporate machine. They might not have the time to play it, but everyone has time to watch a 45-second trailer, okay? So put a lot of effort into it. And we're going to help you with that. Today, we're going to be watching all of your trailers in a row. We're going to be providing just a minute or 2 of feedback, okay, as we watch it. And hopefully that'll be fun, all right? Hopefully that won't be too cringy. Usually it's a little bit during the draft, okay? But you now have until Tuesday, I believe. Actually, no, we're going to watch your final trailers on Monday as well, all right, to cap things off. But you now have a little bit more time to finish up and re-record footage and take feedback and improve your trailers, okay? Registration for the showcase needs to be in by the early morning on Tuesday, okay? I can auto-generate the showcase webpage, which is why we can kind of wait quite a while to do it. We do need your equipment requests for the showcase to be in by tonight, okay? I'm going to send those requests to the Beister Building facilities tonight. And so if you want extra monitors, if you want some extra computers, okay, those kind of things you'll request via this form, okay? You click on the form right here. You get some information about the kind of things you can request. And we let you know if you can get those later, all right? The registration page, okay, when you go to 494showcase.com, this is going to be a big website that's going to have all of your games. And each game is going to have a tile and a few links and a description and stuff like that. And you really want to make that very attractive, okay? A lot of people are going to play your game from home, okay, or play it remotely. So this is where you'll give us your final studio name, your final game name, a description, right? Tell us where you're from, your links to things like your itch.io page and stuff like that. The final showcase website will look something like this. And the better icon you have, right, and these can be GIFs, by the way, okay, you have some motion, some tasteful motion, the more likely it will be for people to play your game, okay? And so please put some effort into filling that out and do a good job, all right? You can submit it multiple times if you want to, if you keep making it better or fixing things up, Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to say. We do have some cool announcements, okay? Course completion stickers are going to be available at our final lecture on Monday, okay? So if you want to get a course completion sticker, you can do that. One really cool thing is that we have an extra credit assignment in the course that I think just came online. You can get extra credit for going to the other showcase that we have happening. We have, let's see here, there it is. You can get 4 points of extra credit very easily by attending the 440, the XR showcase, which is happening on Monday from 7 to 9 p.m., okay? And so if you're bored, if you've got some time, if you just want to hang out and check out some cool VR and AR projects, you'll get some points for doing so, all right? What else do we have? Okay, blah, 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 blah. Again, be very careful about making any big last-minute changes to your project, or you could end up like Phil Fish. This is a famous clip from Indie Game the Movie, a very visceral movie. The life of an indie game developer is kind of akin to the life of an upstart Hollywood film actor or actress, okay? You're going to sacrifice a lot. The path is definitely not guaranteed, and it's going to get very spicy for you. But maybe that's just the kind of person you are. Okay, let's take a look.
It's really like a nerve-wracking experience to look at somebody play my unfinished game. Because it's not done. Somebody will get stuck somewhere, or there's a part that don't get, or life is done, it's not done. Okay, I'll fix it later.
Yeah, it feels like too personal.
It's too close. Like it's too. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I think that's a bug. That's a bug. I think we're stuck now. Give me that one. Yeah. I don't know what that was, but keep talking, and if something happens, if you don't mind starting. First player, game breaking right away. Oh, god damn it. It's completely broken.
That's not good. Yeah,
I need to restart this thing. There's a game breaking bug right away. Right away. Can't play it. Game keeps crashing all the time. It's completely unstable. There are game breaking bugs like right at the beginning. Damn it!
Like even to like start a new game, it starts to bug out game, it doesn't work, and you restart the computer like practically every time somebody's done like it's a disaster. It's a complete fucking disaster. What happened? Where were you at?
Nothing, just hit start new game.
It just stayed in the sky. One moment. Well, like every time it crashes, it feels like a personal failure, like a deep personal failure.
I need to actually kill the game and restart it.
Like I should apologize. Like, I'm so sorry after your time, and you can start
again if you want.
But yeah. We made too many changes last night, and now we have an unstable build on our hands.
Okay, so every showcase, we have at least one, sometimes two teams, where I'll be walking past the booths about 5 minutes before we let everyone in to start the event and watch the trailers and stuff. And I'll see them with Unity open and the entire team kind of looking at Visual Studio Code and being very concerned, okay, with grave expressions on their face. And that is not the experience you want to have on what should be a very, very exciting and fulfilling day, okay? And so please avoid making changes at the last moment. And the night before, make sure you get a lot of last-minute play testing just in case you find something that's really big and really spicy. All of these play testers are going to find issues with your game, okay? They're going to play and poke and prod and pressure your game and your software in ways that you did not expect. And so just be ready for that. Make sure that the most obvious routes through the game are mostly bug-free and there aren't too many game-breaking bugs, okay? And you'll be fine, all right? A really cool piece of footage here on the kind of tension between consistency and theater, okay? Often, in order to get a certain emotion across, we actually have to change the way that the physical world works for artistic reasons. What you discover is that if you want to make a really nice handcrafted experience, you have to really get in there and you have to be the artist in charge. You have to kind of interrupt things. What do I mean by this? Well, I'm going to show you a cutscene from Resident Evil 4 Remake. And I want you to pay attention to just how natural the cutscene feels from the user's perspective, but just how many things are changing. How much cheating are the artists doing behind the scenes to make it look as good as it does? Watch this.
My favourite scenes to watch what's happening off camera is the tussle between Leon and Ada. It happens fairly quickly, but within a small amount of time, you can see all sorts happening in the background, especially with the lighting effects.
Would it make you use this? Would you?
Well, after 6 years, that is one hell of a greeting. Ada.
You don't seem surprised. Interesting.
Try using knives next time. Better for close encounters.
Not a bad move.
So you see the massive number of things that need to be tweaked and changed from frame to frame. When you have a different camera angle, the lighting wholesale changes, okay? And so don't get this impression that game design and game dev is this really natural automated thing. If you want to create really tightly controlled, really tightly paced emotional experiences, it requires a human being to be in there and to make a lot of tweaks, okay? And when you're designing a cutscene, in the same way that you iterate and change things and test it and then iterate again with a level or a puzzle, you'll do that with a cutscene, okay? The cutscene doesn't feel quite right. It's not hitting. It doesn't have the right pacing or timing. So let's tweak a few things. Let's change how the lighting works from moment to moment until you get it feeling really, really good, okay? And it's really funny to see behind the scenes, right? A character who comes out of nowhere during the cutscene will actually come out of nowhere if you are looking behind the scenes, okay? Ada Wong just spawns in from a corner of the room, and you do what you have to, okay? Control of the camera is extremely powerful, and hiding things just off camera is a very good way to get a lot done cheaply, all right? Okay, a tip for your trailers as you go to work on the final version of your trailers, stock footage can sometimes add a bit of spice. It's a pretty easy and pretty quick way to do so. If, for instance, you are making a game that stars deer, it has an outdoorsy theme, okay, you play as like a Bambi-style character, this is footage that might be very valuable to your trailer, okay? And it is royalty-free footage because it is on pexels.com. Where you can find a lot of really interesting stuff, okay? Let's search for video. Give me a theme. Let's see if we can find something good. Yeah. A carnival. Okay, carnival. Okay, so we got some roller coasters. We've got a Ferris wheel, classic kind of carnival contraption. We've got some other rides here. Okay, one of those evil prize stalls where you never win the prize. You've got overviews, got all sorts of stuff, right? So, yeah, might be a good idea. All right, you don't have to use this, but if you're looking for something to spice up in between your gameplay footage or to give people a nice, good intro to the trailer, this could be something very useful. Okay. A quick note: Professor Yang, Jesse Yang, is looking for a game developer intern for the summer. And I think this is a job that also tends to go during the school year as well. She has hired EECS 494 students for the past 3 years. It's very funny in a way. She just kind of comes straight to, when she needs a new member of the team, she just sends me an email with a job ad and says, can you post this? And then she ends up hiring someone. So this is kind of an interesting project. It's like you can check this out later. It's like a research project in which multiple players are put into like an Unreal Engine simulation, and they need to escape from a wildfire by like communicating from each other. The entire thing is kind of a psychological experiment to figure out how human beings interact with each other and support each other and compete with each other, especially when information gets messed with. Okay, so kind of an interesting thing. Your P3 Gold assignment is released, okay? And remember, P3 Gold requires a bit more than the normal weekly submission. It requires a few things. For instance, it requires portfolio websites, okay? So don't forget about that. Don't neglect that until the last moment. It is also, I believe it's actually due on Tuesday, not on Monday. And it's due the moment the showcase begins, or actually I think 1 hour before. So I think it's due at like 6 p.m. or something. You can check Canvas to get the final word on that. Your P3 marketing final, that final trailer, is going to be due as well. I think it's due on Monday. Maybe I'll extend it to Tuesday if people want me to. We'll see. And make sure you fill out showcase registration like by Tuesday morning, the morning of the showcase, and fill out your equipment requests. If you do want to request equipment, fill that out with your teammates before this evening, okay? Because that's when I'm going to send it out to the lab, to the staff. Okay, it's time. Let's go ahead and let's watch some of these trailers. How this is going to work is we're going to watch the trailer once, and then I'm going to give some feedback in about 30 seconds or so. And then we'll take a few hands if you've got feedback, and we'll move on to the next trailer, okay? Please use this feedback as you iterate your trailer for that final version. First up, P3 Studio One, we got Shardbound Shadows.
You ever wonder what Shadow? You ever wonder what Shadow would do if it didn't follow you? In this intricate puzzle platform, make use of Shadow Clone and your wits to navigate obstacles and solve puzzles as you progress through forward dungeon levels. You and Shadow interact the world differently, so swap between as necessary to continue to increasingly challenging puzzles. For instance, your Shadow could spread its shadow properties to other objects, giving new properties. Just make sure you are the only one who gets to see the light. Do you have what it takes to light your path forward? Or will you be stuck in the shadows? Find out in Shardbound Shadows.
Okay, Shardbound Shadows, well done. This is kind of a cool little opening. You've got this cool little kind of zoomed in shot that does a good job of selling this fact that you can spawn a shadow of yourself. Most of the rest of the footage here is very zoomed out, right? So your player, you might want to be showing them something here, but your viewer's eyes are probably going to be up here or over here, right? They might get distracted by the text that they don't understand yet. So I highly encourage you, go and capture footage. Bring a camera in that's really close and get really nice high-res close-up footage of the thing you want to show. Also, minimize distractions. Get rid of text like this, okay? Don't let the user just move their eyes up here, okay? And you'll have much better footage. Also, be careful about zooming in post, because you'll get kind of fuzzier and nastier looking footage that way, and the game won't look very good. Actually create a new camera in Unity, temporarily so you can record footage from a different angle than normal. Okay, and that will create a much better feel. The trailer begins and it's very quiet for a while, which is a bit awkward. A little bit awkward. So a little bit of audio would be useful, and boost the volume of the voice, okay? It was a little bit hard to make out in a few parts. Other than that, really good stuff, okay? Any other thoughts? Okay, Jess?
I think the text of this story is a little tough to read. It's kind of a nitpick, but it's all very bright, especially with the development needs that to make out.
Okay, yep, text a bit hard to read at the start. Oh, good. All right, I'm excited about this already. Okay, so next up, we have P3 Studio 2. This is EECS Horror. Let's take a look.
This is so hard. It's like hour 10, 2 a.m. What the heck? Hello?
When a late night study session goes awry. A rogue janitor who wants you dead. Find a way to escape. Don't get caught.
Incredible. Escape EECS. Okay, all right. So the real life footage does a lot of heavy lifting here. It's very cheesy. It's very fun. The voice recording is a little bit hard to hear, I think, at the beginning, but the lights going off, very atmospheric. The game sets things up pretty well. I think that this footage is going to look much better in this final week. So when you get more, when you improve the aesthetics this week, I'm guessing these text boxes are going to look a lot better. The dialogue, no default Arial font probably. You'll want to record these portions of it. Yeah, super cool, right? You're recreating the scene from the game with real life footage. It's very immersive and very cheesy and very fun, especially this ending right here. This reminds me a lot of the original Resident Evil like intro ending, right? You just kind of zoom in on someone's face going, ah! And blood splatter and title screen, boom, you're done, all right? Move on. Very good stuff, all right? Thoughts? Yes?
I feel like the end needs to cut a little bit because it looks like you're smiling in that like part, so
Yeah.
like that's a little odd.
Yeah, it contributes to the cheese, you know, a little bit. Ah! Incredible. I love it. Well done. Very good. Yes?
Would doing like a kind of bad dub over the intro sequence be too cheesy?
I think that would make it better. Yeah. Yeah, a dub that's just slightly off. You might even voice act it like Resident Evil style. Oh, my homework is... oh, wait, no, that's too awkward. I've been working too late. I'm getting sleepy. Those early survival horror games had not purposely bad voice acting, but famously bad voice acting. And so you could try it if you want to. Just see if it works, okay? Next up, we have Sworn Fish by Studio 3. This needs like some aquarium footage to get you in the mood. We'll see if it has it.
Face to face with the moonlit Leviathan, where his will and his blade were lost to the depths. But where one legend ends, another begins. Dive into a mysterious ocean. Battle fierce enemies. Unlock your true potential through the Krill Tree. Challenge powerful bosses.
Studio, thank you. All right, very good stuff, team. I'm super excited about the new intro cutscene. This makes a lot of sense. When I see just this one slide, it clicks in my head, and now everything is a lot more meaningful in the game. So this is fantastic. One thing is the voice acting is really nice. It's kind of got that pirate vibe, but it's a bit hard to hear when the pirate's talking with the awesome music just pounding in the background. So the audio balancing is something you'll want to revisit. That's the case for almost every trailer. You usually, in almost every trailer, the narration has to get boosted. The background music has to get subdued a little bit, okay? Another thing is this game has really great aesthetics, but all of the footage we see here is full of distracting things the player doesn't really need to know about. We don't need to have these UI elements. We don't need to have text, okay? There are a lot of different places I can look in this screen, and so I might get distracted and not look at the thing that the narrator is talking about, okay? With this, I recommend turning off some of the UI elements and also getting zoomed in footage, okay? So we can really see this cool character you've created. And when you demonstrate like a cool special attack, we only see that attack, right? When the narrator mentions cool bosses, you can zoom in on the boss, right? And show a really cool clip of just the boss and not all the other things that we are going to get distracted by, okay? So, right, we don't need to see the health bar. We don't need to see the krill count, the stuff up here, the stuff over here, right? The stuff over here is irrelevant, right? A nice zoomed in shot of the crab, maybe a slow zoom out. Don't let me design your trailer for you, but these are the problems that you'll run into, right? You're used to guidance. Guidance is hugely challenging. My player is not looking at the thing I need them to look at. They're not understanding the thing I need them to understand. The same problem happens with trailers. Damn it, I'm trying to show my viewer something, but they're getting distracted and looking at the wrong things at the wrong moments, okay? And so the way you fix that is by kind of turning those things off or zooming, getting a nice crystal clear in Unity zoom that shows only the things I want them to be thinking about when I want them to be thinking about it, okay? All right, amazing stuff. Any thoughts? Quick hand, yes.
After the challenge powerful bosses, it felt like there was going to be another voice line.
Oh, yes. Yep, definitely. So a final voice line could make sense. When I see studio thank you, I see like an implicit comma there, like the final slide is saying studio thank you. As in the studio who made this game is thanking themselves. And so my brain got confused for a moment until I realized that the name of the team was Studio Thank You. So I wonder if other viewers might get confused as well. Okay, here we go. Loli, the roly-poly.
Separated from her family by a sudden storm and rising river, help Loli, the roly-poly, navigate her way underground to reunite with her family. You must solve puzzles, avoid obstacles, and utilize the environment in unique ways to gather enough leaves and cross the fierce river. Can you help Loli find her way?
All right, very good stuff. A very charming trailer, kind of understated, right, and humble like the game itself is. There's a timing issue with the narrator. The narrator says, Loli the roly-poly will go underground at this moment. And then for the next 5 seconds, it doesn't show it going underground. It shows roly-poly in the boat, right, or thinking about the boat. So there's a slight timing issue, though this is a good way to launch. When my eyes see this for the first time, I don't see roly-polies. I actually see spinning bullets. I'm not sure why. But I worry that people might not realize what these things are. If Roly walks out and then goes into her ball and then rolls into one of these letters and stays there, I think it would be a bit more clear what happened. And this is a pill bug. Because a lot of people won't notice these antennas coming out of the circle. All right, what else? This kind of gives away the ending a little bit, right? We get to see the good ending, which means I don't have to play the game anymore because I know that Roly is going to make it, right? And I don't need to play the game because I've seen the ending now. What I would consider doing is maybe start to cut it or fade it while she's crossing, but don't show her getting across, right? That leaves a little bit of tension to want to go and play the game to help her actually reunite with her family. This is really good stuff, team. Super good stuff. one thing I'll say is that there's some cool footage here. There are a couple stages in this game where like the moves you're doing make you look super cool, like an acrobat. You're doing a couple moves in a row. I would make sure to get some footage of like a really cool involved move. One of the stages toward the end, maybe, to just show the player like what you're going to be able to do by the end of this. All right? Really good stuff. Well done. There's a little bit of debug text in the corner of that shot right there a moment ago. Okay. Final thoughts? Any thoughts? One quick hand? Yes?
That single leaf at the beginning, it distracted me a little bit. I'm like, oh, it's going over there. Oh, it's going over there. And it was just falling very slowly at first.
Oh, okay. All right. So the timing and movement of the leaf. Okay, next up, we have Echo Trace.
Welcome to Echo Trace, Verelia's magnum opus, a virtual utopia where users can relive the beauty of the past. But even paradise needs maintenance. Join our debug-operated team, the first and final line of defense for system integrity. Traverse the simulation, gather your debug protocols, and neutralize any anomalies in the way. Be careful, do not engage with anomalies beyond...
You should not be here. I stayed for too long, and then Aurelia left me here. Please, leave before they...
Echo Trace is expanding. Stability is our promise. Compliance is our pride. Join us today. Your future begins in the past.
Whoa, all right. I love it. This is super exciting. I think the early goings do a good job of kind of giving you a vibe for the game's theme, right? You're going into a simulation, you're kind of a debugging person, and you're going to go and fix these glitches. You're going to do battle with these cards. One thing the trailer doesn't really explain is that this is a heavily debuff and buff-based combat system. So you don't really get a sense that that's the unique twist on gameplay that this game has. It looks like Pokemon, right? Combined with a card game. So some sort of mention of the unique debuff-based gameplay of this game would be a good idea. This is the best part in the entire trailer. This like quick like...
You should not be here.
Right? It kind of feels like the audience is being screamed at. Like, don't play this game. Don't play this. You're going to get trapped in the game. No, don't. And then, no, it's fine, right? It's all good. Play the game. It's really intriguing. It breaks the fourth wall a bit, and it's really exciting. So it makes you think that this game has a little bit of extra secrets it's hiding. And so you'd better go play that game right now to go find out what they are and solve the mystery. And this is really fantastic stuff. And the voice acting is fantastic too. Crystal clear, and you can hear that desperation very well. So wonderful trailer. Very, very good stuff. And all of these unique shots, zoomed in, right? This is not a gameplay shot you normally see. It's made just for the trailer. And so really well done. Very impressive. Okay, any final thoughts? Yes?
So I do realize there's some UI popping off in the top left corner, and when you just
this?
want to catch them, but they show like they turn
And
I feel like it's a bit distracting actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you've got like inconsistent things and UI that's changing all the time, it's going to make it really hard for your viewers to pay attention, okay? So we need to do something about that. Okay, good job, team. Well done. Okay, next up, we have Studio 6. I don't know what the final name of this game is, so we'll find out. Audio?
I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, that sucks for you.
Oh wait, crap! We have a listing exam tomorrow. We need to study now.
Work with your partner to study for the upcoming physics exam. The power of magnets is at your disposal, but getting an A might not be as easy as it seems. And even when the puzzles seem to draw you apart, know that you're only a simple flip from being pulled together. Remember, not everyone will pass the exam. What grade will you get?
All right. Very cool, team. Well done. Very cheesy. One thing I'll say is the initial beginning has this cool little animation. This was probably filmed in Unity, wasn't it? But it has no audio at all. So the mood isn't there. The atmosphere isn't there. Another thing, this intro is really cool. It's going to get people into the trailer and get them interested. But the mood in the game itself is different than the mood in the recordings, right? The footage. So here it's kind of a little bit manic, like, oh shoot, we forgot. Okay, we need to study, right? And then it goes to very calm music.
Oh wait, crap! We have a bunch of things to do.
Get over here, right?
Work with your partner to study
Calm.
for the upcoming
Super
physics
calm.
exam. The power of magnets is at your disposal, but getting an A might not be as easy as it seems.
The music cuts, that kind of calming music from the gameplay cuts, and now it's gone. And the mood that used to be kind of intellectual is now like kind of comedic. And so the tone is shifting every few seconds here. Another thing, when you're trying to demonstrate cool gameplay mechanics, like the two teaming up, there's so much on the screen that the viewer is going to be looking at instead. In fact, they might not even notice the magnets for a while. They might be looking at the cool textures or something else in the corner of the screen. So get that zoomed in footage. It's going to work much better. I don't think you need to trash this footage, okay? But you want to kind of keep the audio, that calm audio playing in the background, to kind of keep that mood a little bit more consistent, right? They're struggling, but yeah, they're getting it, right? They solved the puzzle, right? That can kind of make these two different vibes match up a little bit better, okay? Lots to be distracted by here as well. Yeah, cool, okay. Good stuff. All right, thoughts?
Well,
yes.
I'm saying if they print their layout on paper and do a ratio proportionally to the blackboard, and if the fade in, fade out will match together, that would be so fantastic.
Oh yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah. There's no maximum amount of effort you can put into these trailers. There's always something more you can do, so consider what's going to be worth your time and not, and go for it, team. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Next up, we have Final Fumes.
If you're reading this, sorry. The radio, it's your only way out. Follow the signal. It's the only place that's safe. Your car is your lifeline. Scrap is its blood. And there's something out there following you. Never stop running. I hope you make it out alive.
Okay, very cool, very moody trailer, team. Good job, well done. During this intro section, it looks a bit weird to see the car vibrating, but Final Fumes, the text and all the names is kind of down here. I didn't even notice it at first, so I got a bit confused, and then it's very clearly not part of the car. It was kind of edited in post, which makes it look a little bit cheap. When we get most of the footage, we have distracting things like this piece of UI, which you can turn off to get better footage. The voice actor was trying for this kind of spooky, right, vibe, but it was very hard to understand what they were saying at certain times because of the delivery, but also certain moments because of the static.
The radio, it's your only way out. Follow the signal.
The radio wants my only thing out. That's what I heard the first and second time I listened to this. The white big like default 3D texts that show up to prompt you to press E to interact are a bit distracting. I don't encourage you to include those in the final version of the game. What else? All right, I think that's just about it. Getting some more non-gameplay footage, right? Super cool shot of the car pulling in. Right there, I think we got a cool shot of the car driving along the road. Super, super cool stuff. A shot that kind of better showcases what monsters might be hiding, right? Don't show them fully and don't show them for long, but do definitely strongly hint that there are things after you, okay? Okay, any final thoughts? Hands? Yes? Yeah, title screen text, definitely small. Yeah, easy to miss. I'll also say, team, this is a horror game, right? So can you think of a way to jolt everyone, right? And because the audio comes in kind of slowly when the trailer begins. You might, I don't know, like maybe the audio comes in a little bit faster to get that spooky vibe rolling a little bit earlier. Or maybe just stick with this. It kind of is a creeping vibe, which is a good fit for the game. Okay, in any case, good stuff, team. Well done. And I would boost audio levels overall because it's if it's too quiet, the horror is going to be gone. Okay, that's another big thing for all of you. I can always, during the presentation, I can make the volume go down. I can't make it go up beyond the max. So balance your audio and volume levels higher overall, like on average, and I can always adjust it. That's the safer thing to do, okay? Infernal Factor.
I am Dr. Nuclear. Humanity cannot survive as it is, so you have been chosen to preserve our future. Control your robots and fly through the air with nuclear fury. Use your robot body to navigate the environment. Make sure you avoid the fire, or you'll get burned. Use nuclear-powered rockets to blast your enemies. Block attacks with an angelic halo. Gain energy and unleash devastating abilities. Blast off with Infernal Factor. Nuclear energy is not depicted accurately, and this game should not be taken seriously.
All right, good stuff, team. Nice little funny intro. I'm sure the audience will find it pretty funny. It's a little bit weird that this nuclear gate kind of closes and then it immediately opens again to the same thing we were just looking at. If it just stays closed, it'll probably look really cool. The trailer does a really nice job of kind of explaining the mechanics. One thing I'll say is that the trailer doesn't have any external footage. It's all just the kind of footage you would see if you're playing the game yourself. So if you can, right, with the parry, right, get a camera that shows both players from an overhead view or something, or a side view, show a rocket going out, and then one player parries it and it goes back, right? Something like that, so that we're not just constantly seeing things from first person. It's okay to have multiplayer split-screen footage, but split-screen footage can be overwhelming for people when they're first kind of seeing a game for the first time. So definitely use split-screen footage eventually, but maybe try and make it a little bit more digestible. Okay, all right, good stuff. Final thoughts, anyone? Quick thoughts, Jess?
Music choice is pretty, like, stock music.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes my eyes glaze over.
Oh, really? I thought it sounded kind of 90s retro sci-fi, right? Maybe spice it up if you can, team. You've got like a nuke. Your whole game is kind of themed around nuclear stuff. So start with like a nuclear explosion. Does Pexels have footage of like a big nuclear explosion? I don't know. Maybe it does. Okay, let's go ahead and play Way of the Cards.
Trapped in the squishiest dungeon known to mankind. You'll sling spells, dodge gooey ambushes, and recover your scattered cards. Each one of you in your growing magical deck. Will your cast of cards be enough to break free of this wretched place? Rebuild your town, one card at a time, and prepare for the final curtain call in Way of the Cards.
Well done. I think it can't be understated how cool this intro is and how pretty quickly it sets up the theme and premise, right? You're a magician. You trip over a bird. What is that bird doing up there? And one of your spells accidentally warps you to a new world, okay? Oh, the pigeon comes with us. That's kind of cool. This footage, I'll say, the first gameplay footage you show should probably be zoomed in and a bit simpler, right? Like most of our projects, you don't need to have all these UI elements on. You don't need to be this zoomed out when you probably just want to show the player running around and doing some basic attacks first. Then you can move on to some spells, and by the end of it, you could reintroduce all the UI to show what gameplay actually looks like from moment to moment. But you really do want to set up some of those specialized shots and you want to get rid of the distractions that you can get rid of, okay? And kind of escalate and build it up as the trailer goes on. I think the team's going to have an outro cutscene as well, so that might be a good way to kind of end the trailer. Don't give away the ending, but kind of hint at it might be a good idea, okay? Well done, team. Good stuff. Any final thoughts? Yes?
I thought the intro, while I liked it, did feel a lot of like one thing happens and the next thing happens. Like the bird, and also there was a punch at that first mission.
What do you recommend?
I'm just, how I feel about that first scene is it felt kind of like it was things happening. Like
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, it wasn't really like a flow.
Oh, okay. So the flow, maybe the pacing's a little bit messed up. Things usually do happen in footage and trailers. But what you choose to make happen and what order it happens and how fast it happens can be really impactful. Let's take a look at Night of the Living Ducks.
What hides in the darkness? What monsters lie below? Tonight is the night of the living ducks. Fight on the oars to protect the mother duck. Gather bread, build defenses, and gain stronger weapons. Fight stronger enemies. Get more bread, build more defenses. Upgrade your weapons even further. Do your best to survive.
Very good stuff, team. Well done. There's not a swirling, like draining water sound effect on this big swirling animation, which makes it feel a little bit awkward, but it looks really good. This intro is pretty dramatic. I think people will enjoy it quite a bit. One thing that's interesting is like this is only one duck, but zombies aren't really intimidating one-on-one. So when this duck kind of the lights turn on and you see, oh, it's a zombie duck. It's only one zombie duck. And, zombies aren't really scary unless they're in a horde. I would encourage you to turn the lights on, and they're like a gigantic ton of ducks that come in and are about to get you. The footage is really good. You've got these nice kind of camera angles that are easy to follow, focused, and don't have an overwhelming amount of stuff. And we kind of build up, right? And now we're seeing actual gameplay footage. I love how the audio speeds up midway through to give you that like, oh, this game is going to be about compiling and building and making your force go exponential, right? And go crazy. And it's awesome. Very, very good stuff, team. I'm not sure that people will make the connection between the mother duck like getting taken out by the zombies and the popping sound. I assume you're going to have some more footage to show like a bad ending or something. And that could be a place to kind of put that to make the connection a bit more clear. But really good stuff, team. Well done. And you even put all the names on the floating platforms. That kind of custom work, like people really appreciate that stuff. Thoughts? Comment? Yes?
It'd be really funny, like where like an intro sequence where it like cracks the duck. Like you just like flash the lights on with a bunch of ducks behind it, like you were saying.
Oh yeah, or like a lightning strike, or right? Like that's a pretty cool way.
Time it with the quack.
Yeah, timing it, all that good stuff. Okay, Carnival Chaos.
Welcome to the carnival. Enjoy our fine selection of carnival games, rides, and sweet treats for the whole family to enjoy. We hope you enjoy your stay in Carnival Chaos.
I really like this building suspenseful track that just kind of comes in the second half of the trailer. It's good stuff. You don't quite know if this is a horror game or not. At first, it looks like a fun, happy-go-lucky carnival game, and then the vignette and the audio. I would lean into that, right? And if you're going to go horror, like, do some horror things. Don't be afraid to do some quick cuts to possibly but not actually disturbing footage, right? Maybe like a clown, like, right? Lots of good footage of terrifying clowns. Sub that in and just blink it in for just a moment, right? To give that vibe that you're seeing things you're not actually supposed to see. There's a lot of footage in this trailer that is, I mean, like the classic thing, right? It's not quite zoomed in enough. It's not quite focusing on what you want them to focus on. It's got stuff turned on that doesn't need to be turned on. And it's all stock footage. So it all starts to blend together. The beginning of I think the first thing the narrator says is like, welcome to the carnival, like enjoy our nice shops and treats. But it's like showing someone whacking us, like fighting us. So something you might say is, welcome to the carnival, where we have fabulous entertainers for you, right? And that would make a little bit more sense because you're showing the people who will fight you. This ice cream boss is sick. I can't wait to fight this thing in the game. Yeah, there's also a section in the middle of the trailer where the audio like overlays on top of other audio, and it doesn't sound very good, and then it goes away. Yep, all that stuff that you're going to fix up and make super nice. That's why we do these drafts. Definitely lean into that like creeping sense of this is a messed up carnival vibe. I think that'll get you a lot of mileage, and I think it's something you can do without recording a ton of additional footage. Okay. All right. Go, oh goodness. The entire team, should they watch this? Should they not? There's a series called Terrifier, which is probably not a thing that anyone should ever watch with their eyes. You know, if you wanted to get that vibe of super crazy killer carnival, that'll definitely do it for you. Okay, Colorbound. Let's take a look.
They don't know where they are or how they got here. Only that the colors make things work. Each level brings more questions and more power. And someone is watching, telling them only what they need to know. Crystals, color, inheritance. Why? They don't know. But they keep going. Colorbound is a cooperative puzzle game where color means everything. Change your color. Change your ability. Use your powers to solve challenges together. Think, coordinate, and adapt as the puzzles evolve. The only way forward is together.
Awesome. Very crystal clear and pretty easy to understand narrator. Well done. I'm tempted to ask if that is an AI narrator, but I don't. You don't have to answer that. One thing is that the footage of the game here is beautiful, and it's custom captured, right, for the trailer. But the narrator starts talking about characters and abilities, but like it doesn't show them. It spends the first half of the trailer just showing environments, which means there's a disconnect between what the narrator is talking about and what you're showing. So if that disconnect goes on too long, players will be confused. And then the first time you show the actual characters in this game, it's in split screen with all the UI turned on and even a cursor in the frame. So the user is likely to be a bit blinded here and not quite know what to look at. And so I would really introduce the characters a bit earlier maybe, or delay the narrator mentioning the characters until later. And when you introduce the characters, just show them together in one camera, not split screen, no UI. Bring in a special camera just for trailer footage and have both characters kind of walk into the scene, right? So we can get introduced to them. And then you can start introducing some of the split screen stuff. Okay, you could show off some of the abilities, right? So that we know what those are, because I don't think we ever actually focus on them. Passing colors back and forth between each other, stealing them from the environment. All those mechanics can be kind of shown in really specific footage that only shows that thing, making it much easier to follow. Good trailer, though. Final thoughts? Anyone? Quick thoughts? Yes?
I was confused by the changes in pronouns.
Okay.
The first part of them is like the character that's they.
Okay.
Like in other people
Oh, interesting. Okay, got you. Yep, the inconsistency there might be something to look at. Okay, Providence. Let's take a look.
Things were not always like this. Being broken.
I cannot let this stand.
She picked up the blade once more. Providence can help you no more.
All right, awesome. Good stuff, team. Well done. One thing is that this narration focuses almost exclusively on the theming, right? The story, the narrative. That's good to have that. But you probably at some point want to talk about the game's unique pairing system and how you can be exceptionally precise in this game in a way that you can't in other games, right? So you can parry from any direction, strike from any angle. So the gameplay isn't really spoken about at all. Like the normal thing, we mainly get gameplay footage, and there's a lot of things turned on that we don't really care about. It was kind of cheesy to see our character die and have the sad music come in, and then immediately have it be gone. Let's see. There's a certain moment in the beginning of the trailer in which the narrator says, it wasn't always like this. Everything beaten and broken. And when it says that, it's showing a perfect bridge that looks really fantastic. And maybe there's a pillar over here, but the fauna looks fantastic. It looks like people have been taking care of the pathways pretty well. So it's narrator, I don't believe you. In fact, my impression is that the villains of this game have done a pretty good job. So why am I fighting them now, right? Anyway, cool stuff, team. Well done. Okay, thoughts? Okay, all right, good stuff. I think that was actually our final trailer. Everyone, these trailers are a really good first start. And what most of these trailers are going to be concerned with is what am I showing when the narrator says what, right? How can I match up what the narrator is saying with what we're showing? How do I make sure I only show exactly the things I need to and not too much? If I show too many things, I might distract my user. And the volumes, the audio mixing, okay? It is much more important that the viewer kind of understands what's being said and understands what's being shown than getting them super hyped up. You want to do both. But if you want to have a bunch of music in there going crazy, definitely tone that down a bit to make the clarity of the trailer better. Focus on clarity first, okay? All right, anyone have any comments or questions on any of this? All right, this is good stuff. This is good stuff, team. So what's going to happen now is I want to introduce you to a really impactful topic that is becoming more and more important with every day that passes. Okay, SIMD programming. Have you ever heard of that? Okay, not a lot of you have. We're going to talk about why it's super important. SIMD, single instruction, multiple data, is a means of programming in a massively parallel way. Okay, if you've taken EECS 482, you might be used to programming that involves a few threads, right? But a GPU works very differently. A GPU, you can think of it as having thousands of threads that run at the same time. And so we're going to introduce this topic of SIMD and GPU programming and shader programming today. It looks like we're going to finish programming a shader effect on Monday as part of our final lecture, okay, before we move into our final topic, whatever that's going to be, okay? So we'll do that a little bit today, but what I want to do first is I want to take our 5-minute break, okay? We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll learn about GPUs together and how they can be programmed, okay? See you soon. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to it. It's awesome to hear further discussion of the trailers. Making a trailer in an iterative fashion, very similar to making a game, okay? And it can be just as satisfying, all right? Okay, so have any of you seen this guy right here, this character? Who is this character?
It's Super Mario Odyssey. I think it's the first boss.
It's like the second boss. Yep. Yep. The first pyramid boss. Yep. This is a boss from Super Mario Odyssey. Okay, a very acclaimed game that was very effective in endearing people to its world and its characters. This boss, when it appears, you see this cutscene, right? You get this kind of zoomed in look at the boss, and then the boss needs to demonstrate its power, right? A boss is meant to be intimidating and scary, right? And so how are we going to do this? All right, we have the boss slam the ground to demonstrate its power and speed, but it's more than that, isn't there? Okay, we got screen shake, which we know how to do. We got particles that fall from the ceiling, which we also know how to do. But what else is here that makes you really feel that impact? Have you ever been playing a sports ball game and gotten like clocked in the face? A basketball thrown in your face, or you're playing football and someone just decks you, right? Your vision sometimes blurs or is affected for a few moments, okay? What happens here? What do we notice here? There's something here that we don't know how to do yet. Yes?
I think there's like a radial blur from
Yeah. Bingo. There's a blur that happens, and it starts very intense, and then as time goes by, it kind of goes back to normal. But the intensity of the blur is lessened in the center of the screen, and it's heightened more on the periphery of your vision around the screen. I call this an impact blur, but it is, right, a radial kind of impact blur that affects different pixels on the screen in a different way, okay? Now, I'm going to give you a spoiler. The way that you write that effect is by writing a piece of logic that every pixel on your screen will execute at the same time. A single set of instructions for multiple pieces of data. A single algorithm for multiple pixels to run. Okay? And this effect runs on your GPU. It's the only way to handle that number of pixels that fast, okay, in real time. Shaders are a very difficult thing to deal with, okay? But shaders and graphics and GPU programming is the kind of thing that will quickly make your game feel like a non-student game, okay? It'll feel like a professional commercial game. You know why? Because student games never have these kinds of effects. Or they have them, but they're very distastefully used, okay? Here's an example from the course code repo. If you ever want to do a cool transition that shows a certain shape, the Sonic Adventure series loves to do this. Then you can see this kind of thing right here. Okay, look carefully. Okay, when I click the button to transition to the next screen, we don't just kind of bring in a fade. We bring in not even a circle. We bring in a particular shape. This is written via shader. Okay, and the way it's written and the way it works is kind of cool. I want you to pay careful attention to something at the bottom of the screen. When we click on this button at the bottom of the screen, what do you notice? How do you know that I clicked? Yeah. Now, I don't do a good job of demonstrating this, but in this game, in this project, which you can get from the course code repo, every time you click on the screen, a ripple of water appears and the wave kind of ripples out. This is very similar to like the Mario 64 file menu screen, okay, where every time you change which file you're about to select, a ripple in the pond appears behind it, okay? If you've seen the duck game from this semester, right, it's a little bit similar to the water getting shifted in that game as you hop around. These are effects that in many cases use shader technology, use GPU programming. It's a very different kind of programming. Right here, we have another effect. This is the effect we're actually going to implement together. This is a heat wave effect, but if you make a couple tweaks, this instead becomes an underwater effect, which is what we're going to program together. If you want to go even further, then you can do some really cool things, okay? Things that affect gameplay even. I told you in the past I'd been working on a firefighting game, right? The green pellets that vanquish the purple poison that's spreading, right? No, it's a firefighting game. And if you're going to make a firefighting game, you better have two things that are incredible. You better have incredible fire and incredible water, okay? And smoke would be really great too. And that is how I got to working on this kind of stuff and building cool effects. This kind of organic, nice 2D flowing water, you know what it actually is? It's a ball pit. It looks like this under the surface. Okay, that's it. It's a bunch of balls that roll around. They're small enough so they can kind of roll over and under each other, and they have very low friction. They have a very slippery physics material applied to all of them, so you get this kind of flowing water-style behavior. Okay? Water is very important. You already saw this example right here. This was my first experiment, kind of learning shaders for the first time, trying to create kind of a goopy substance. I wanted to create water. You'll see I didn't quite create water. But what's happening here is that we have a bunch of water balls. They're just spheres, but they have a particular material on them that allows them to be rendered to a plane in the background in this kind of thresholded way. That creates the sensation that you have water here. And so it kind of goops together as the balls come close together, and if they separate, they kind of become their own individual piece again. All right? This was improved later. The water droplets are really big because my performance is really bad, and I couldn't support that many water droplets. But you can see, right, that the thresholding has been changed a bit. They're now translucent, so you can see things behind them, okay? And this is starting to look a little bit more like water. If you let a bunch of time go on, it actually fills the holes and the space, as you would expect a fluid to do, okay? And eventually we got to the point where, like, yeah, it's starting to look really good. We got a cool character, we're shooting water around and stuff like that. This is the kind of stuff that you see this and it stops looking like a student game, okay? Because typically, learning shaders and learning how to do all of this takes a lot of time, and it takes knowledge that most students don't have. Most game development students, I kid you not, don't have programming abilities, don't have serious ones. And so they can barely program gameplay mechanics, let alone fancy shader effects like this, okay? Another cool thing here is because it's all a ball pit, you can actually influence the water by like running into it. You can jump into this pit of water and you can jump around and you actually splash the body, which is pretty cool stuff. I need to return to this game and finish it because I still haven't seen a firefighting game that actually has decent water and stuff like that. What about smoke? Okay, I don't remember if I showed you the smoke effect, right? But this is using a particle system. Every particle has a material that uses what's called a stencil shader. The stencil shader basically says, hey, if any pixels on your screen are covered by this particle, instead of showing them what you'd normally show them this cool kind of background image of smoke that's always moving. And it looks really good, and it works really well, okay? So blah, 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 anything else? Maybe I can show you this. The intro to the game was going to have you be like a painting of like a dead, like long-lost firefighter, and you like get revived for some reason. I'm not sure what I was going for here, but it's kind of a cool idea, right? I don't know if we'll get to see the smoke fill up. No, not really. Yeah, you go down through this house, and you like break these walls, and the water's flowing, and you're flowing with it. Yeah, I do need to return to this game. It's kind of cool. Okay, anyway, smoke. Anything? Nope, I don't have any smoke to show you. Okay, so these are the kind of effects that are very rare. They're very, and the reason is that they're very hard to program, okay? Most people kind of don't have the specialized knowledge, and if they do know how to program, they can't really shift their mindset from SysD programming, which is what you're used to SIMD. I'll explain what the difference is in just a bit. Okay, but here you have a really cool comic, all right? And something I would ask you to keep in mind. A lot of people will look at a skill that's very unique, okay? Like someone who can draw really well, and they'll say like, wow, this is super talented, you're super talented, I could never do this, okay? And that's just not true, okay? The hardest things in life can be learned through practice, and often it takes quite a lot of practice. How do you draw so well? I draw practice, right? It's no secret. It must be an innate gift, a gift from God. No, it's practice. I'll never understand how some people are so talented. It is a mystery. No, it is practice. And it has never been easy and has never been fun, all right? At least when you're starting, okay? So we're going to do some practice. I have a challenge for you, okay? A challenge. I want you to get your deck painted. Congratulations. You've just purchased a new home in Ann Arbor. And that in itself is a feat. And now you want to get your deck painted. And so the question is this. You've got two options, okay? You look in the phone book and you find an individual who has some very special skills at painting decks, okay? This is one person, and they call themselves the Captain Painter Ultimate. Very cheesy name, okay? But this is a painting super soldier. you're going to hire this person to come out to your house and they're going to paint this entire deck all by themselves. And it doesn't matter what problems they run into. Okay, there could be a squirrel on your deck. They're going to deal with it. Okay, there could be an alien invasion from the Covenant could invade, and they're still going to be able to deal with that. Okay, and they're going to get the job done. All right. Now, there's an alternative in the phone book. They call themselves the Group Painting Unit. This is not a single person, but a team of painters. Okay, and you can see them. They're very formal. They don't move very fast, actually, because here's the thing. They have to stay in lockstep. If one of them is doing something, the rest have to do it, right? They're soldiers, right? They march in lockstep. They march slowly, but there are just so many of them that they can get the job done pretty quickly, okay? And so over here, we have one soldier who is high-powered, a super soldier. And over here, we have a bunch of normal soldiers, okay? They're kind of slow. To be honest, they're actually kind of bad at their job, but there's so many that they can get the job done. And so the question is, for painting your deck, who would you go with? They're the same price. Yes?
1,280 soldiers.
You're going to go with the 1,000 plus soldiers. You don't trust Captain Painter Ultimate to handle it?
No.
He's super fast, though, right?
He's one guy.
He's super fast, but he's only one guy. That's right. That's right. He's only got one brush. Anyone else? Yes?
It depends on how big the deck is. The bigger the deck, the more you want the soldiers. The
Oh,
1,200.
interesting. So maybe if we've got a really low res, maybe like a 90s era deck, you maybe just hire one person to do it. Really tiny deck, right? But if you got a super deluxe deck, you need a ton of people. Maybe. Yep, that's a good point. Okay. So who gets it done faster? That's a really interesting question. The next day, you are out. It's October, so you've gone into a corn maze. The problem, though, is you've gotten lost in the corn maze. Okay? And now you're in big trouble. The sun's going down. You got to make a decision fast. You look in your phone, and the only two numbers you've got are the Captain Painter Ultimate from when you called them the other day for your deck and the Group Painting Unit. Okay? And now the question is, who are you going to call? You're running out of time. Your phone battery is about to die. Which one of these people are you going to call? You're going to call Captain Painter Ultimate to come find you in this maze and get you out of this bad situation? Or are you going to call the Group Painting Unit? What?
Maybe the captain.
The captain?
Well, don't you say he's fast?
The captain is very fast, and he can handle anything you throw at him. Very flexible. Okay, but there's only one of them.
But he's fast.
Why wouldn't you choose the Group Painting Unit?
Because he's fast. There's no other reason, right?
But the Group Painting Unit has so many soldiers, right?
I guess it depends. Like, can the soldiers all independently go into the space to find the
No,
exactly
because the Group Painting Unit has to stick together. They have to do the same thing at the same time. They can't split up, and they can't handle anything too complex. Okay, those soldiers are not masterminds here. Okay, yes.
So for reference, there'd be 1,000 groupers walking in a straight line through the maze.
Well, more likely they'd be trying to fit themselves to stay in formation, just pushing themselves through. It'd be very slow and nasty. Okay, they might even get stuck themselves. Okay, they might crash. Then they need a rescue, and then the Captain Painter Ultimate can help them out. Yes?
Why not find a way to use both?
Find a way to use both. That could be a great idea. Okay, that could be a good idea. But the thing is here, we've got two different approaches to solving a problem. Okay, and they're both good at certain things. Okay. Over here, our CPU is very, very fast and self-sufficient, but there just aren't very many of them. Okay, and over on this side, the Group Painting Unit, there are a ton of them, but because there are a ton of them and they're the same price, they're what? They're cheap. They're crappy. Okay, very slow individually, but there are so many of them. They can only move in lockstep, but if you've got something basic you want them to do, they can do it ultra fast. Okay, and right, the question's over here of who gets it done faster. I'll just drop the act, right? We're talking about your CPU versus your GPU, okay? And these are both really, really relevant today. One of them more relevant in the past, one of them a bit more interesting in the present. But this, this has not always been the case, right? I'll ask, which one of these matters more today? And I'm being in a very general sense. What I'm about to do is I'm about to show you some stock prices. I'm going to make this real obvious, but what's more important today?
I know GPUs are used for like cryptocurrency mining a lot, so they're pretty important.
I love that. GPUs are used for crypto, which makes them super important. Okay, we'll have a conversation about that later. But you're right, in a way. GPUs can do some really interesting things, right? They can do rendering super well. They can do crypto, but maybe more interestingly, they can train machine learning algorithms and models really fast. LLMs, okay? When Sam Altman needs to get the next version of GPT going, okay, what's he going to buy? A bunch of Intel products or a bunch of NVIDIA products? Okay, let me show you some graphs. Let's see how Intel is doing these days, okay? Intel stock price. Okay, that looks pretty middling, but that's literally today. Let's look at their month. Uh-oh. Let's look at their year. Uh-oh. 5 years. Oh, God. Okay, and this is not looking so good, huh? I mean, they're hanging in there. They're not out of it or anything, but this isn't a particularly good-looking stock price, right? This is not a good graph. Intel primarily makes CPUs, okay? The super soldier hardware. Let's take a look at NVIDIA's stock price. And not great today, but when you're considering stocks, you always have to look out. Not great over the month. That's looking a bit better. Oh my God, that looks pretty good, right? Of course, things are going on in the markets right now and in world trade. But which of these stock charts do you prefer? Okay, you probably prefer NVIDIA's. NVIDIA is famous for their GPU, their parallel processing hardware. Okay, and that really just kind of it tells you a lot of what you need to know about what matters these days. Okay. So on the CPU side, we typically have one core. Now, these days, sometimes like 4 core or 8 core is more common, but a lower number of cores. The thing, though, is that these cores are incredible. They can do anything, okay? They can handle any sort of computer program you throw at them, any sort of logic. They can handle it ultra fast, okay? They've got a lot of cache to support them, on board cache, on some external caching. They're just fantastic, fantastic chips with lots of optimizations, and they're good stuff. They're very expensive, though, which is why you can spend $500 on a CPU and you get 1 core, and you can spend $500 on the GPU and you get 1,000 cores, right? Well, the thing is, the GPU cores, garbage, okay? There are a ton of them, but they are not very independent, okay? In general, you have to have them all do the same thing at the same time. And they're very slow. One of the worst things you can do in a piece of GPU code is use the forbidden construct of an if statement. And Lord help you if you write a loop, okay? You're dead. Okay, your GPU code is going to grind to a halt. It's going to be super slow and nasty, all right? Because these CPU cores, these GPU cores just can't handle something as complex as a if statement. In fact, if you have an if statement in your logic and half of your cores want to go through the condition and the other half say, nope, the condition has failed, the cores that don't want to do anything in the loop, they actually have to stop and wait for all the GPU cores that are doing stuff in the loop. Okay? Nasty. Very slow. Blah. Okay? And so we have this situation where we have 2 really well-defined types of hardware these days in processing. We have the CPU, we have the GPU. And these different pieces of hardware are really good for different things. The GPU, right, which has a ton of cores, but they're not very good at anything complex. They are very good at rendering a pixel, i.e., like these soldiers. Just imagine these soldiers marching onto the deck, and all of them at the same time get the same order, paint below you. And they all kind of bend down and paint, and that's all they do. They didn't do anything fancy or complex, but because there's so many of them, they finished it in one paint job, right? Right? That's the kind of stuff we're dealing with when we deal with rendering, okay? But when we deal with pathfinding, searching through a maze, that's where the CPU is much, much better, okay? Have you ever heard of a concept called Moore's Law? You probably have heard of it outside of UMich, but you may have heard of it in 370, okay? EECS 370. For a while, the progress of computation and performance was very consistent, okay? Basically, the number of transistors we would put into a CPU would double every 2 years or so. And so performance started to kind of keep up, and it really became very consistent. The problem, though, and the reason we talk about Moore's Law so often is that it failed. It died, okay? It stopped. If you look at this graph, as time went on, the performance for our single thread improved. But it kind of started to level out in the mid-2000s. And by 2010, it was getting very difficult to keep our CPUs, our single-threaded performance, improving. When we say single-threaded performance, we're talking about the way that you programmed EECS 281 projects, EECS 280 projects, EECS 183 projects, where you have a single point of execution, and it's just going to go down the list, okay? That's what you're used to, single-threaded performance. But hardware just cannot keep up, okay? Our hardware doesn't have the ability to run faster anymore, for the most part. You know why? Physics, okay? We can only make transistors so small before the realm of physics and quantum problems starts to become a huge barrier for making things faster, for fitting more transistors in a certain amount of space, okay? Heating problems, thermal problems, okay, communication problems, all that is a huge problem. So if you're a company like Intel and you have lost the ability to make faster chips, how do you sell things? How do you sell more chips? What do? What's the business plan? Is it time to just liquidate? What do? We need to improve performance, but we can't improve the performance of a single thread, okay?
You combine together multiple threads.
Yes. We need to, instead of scaling vertically, we scale horizontally. We say we can't make our threads any faster, but what we can do is we can have more threads, and we can make those threads better at communicating, okay? We can parallelize our problems, thus allowing us to solve many of them much faster. And so that's what happened. Our CPUs didn't really get a whole lot faster, but they started going from single core to multi-core, okay? To sometimes up to like 32 or even 64 core for the crazy like AMD Threadripper chips that cost like $5,000. Okay, it's nuts. And so around the same time, okay, arcades, right, needed interesting hardware to support rendering for video games. And companies like NVIDIA were supplying these chips that weren't very good at CPU stuff, single-threaded stuff, but were incredible for massively parallel things like rendering the pixels of a screen, okay? Well, it turned out that while CPUs were really good for highly specific and complex things like pathfinding, okay, logical things, all right, GPUs were incredible for topics like rendering that were kind of massively and easily parallelizable, all right? And it turns out many things are parallelizable, not just rendering, but training, okay? Training machine learning models, stuff like that. And that's why what matters today is parallel processing and not single core processing, okay? And so, well, if your challenge is to paint your screen during gameplay, and you need to do this 60 times per second, You have about 16 milliseconds to get this done, so you need to move very fast, okay? Here is the CPU's algorithm, the single-threaded algorithm for rendering one frame. Here it is. Okay, we have this function, paint your frame, paint image, syst, single instruction, single data. That's what you're used to, okay? What are we going to do? Well, our CPU has to visit every pixel on the screen. Most monitors are 1920 by 1080. And so we're going to go through things horizontally, 1920, go through every row. And then we're going to go, for every row, we're going to go through everything vertically. Okay, so we're going to go down like this, all those columns, okay, 1080 of them. We're going to look up the computed texture at that point, and then we're going to render that pixel. Okay, and that's it. That is what the CPU has to do. How many paint operations happen here? Exactly, okay? And that's going to be several million, all right? So quite a few. 2 million. Wait, is that right? Boom, boom, yep, 2 million. A little bit over that. Now, that's not good, okay? Even if this paint operation is really simple, it's going to take quite a long time, all right? Now, let's see how the GPU does it. It's going to look very similar, but something will be missing. Look at this. Can you see the difference? Something is gone. Something that used to be very nasty is gone. The for loops, the nested for loop is gone. How can that be possible? Surely we have to paint every pixel. So we have to loop through every pixel. We have to visit each pixel individually, right? Well, no, that's not how GPUs do things. GPUs do things differently, okay? Every single core, the thousands of cores within your GPU, they're all going to run the same instruction, the same algorithm, okay? But they have multiple different pieces of data. Every GPU core is going to have different data, slightly different, okay? Because when every GPU core runs this function, they're going to run the same code at the same time, but the parameters X and Y will be different, okay? Single instructions, but multiple data, okay? And so every GPU core is going to look up its little pixel, the color it needs for its location in the final render texture, and then it's going to render that final little color to its location. And that's it. We are painting every single pixel, but it looks like one atomic cohesive operation, okay? Because every GPU core does it at the same time. And that's how it goes. That's how you make what looks like millions of operations into one operation. 2 million paint calls done at the same time by really crappy, cheap GPU cores. But they're cheap and crappy, but they can still get the job done, okay? So that's the magic, okay? How many paint operations occur? 1. The GPU does 1, okay? And that's the magic, all right? So up here with single instruction, single data, okay, you got one GPU, you got one core, and that one core has one piece of data, okay, the entire screen. It's just going to run through everything, tons of operations. Down here, single instruction, just like the CPU, but different data for each core operating, okay, and you get one paint op instead. Huge improvement, massive. If you look at an effect like this is what the GPU code vaguely looks like. You can actually go find the actual GPU code if you go and look at the course code repository, if you want to, okay? It looks something like this. And this code is not that great, actually. You know why? It has if statements in it, okay? It has some conditional logic, which is going to slow this down massively. It's still fast enough to be useful, but it's not as fast as it could be. So what's going to happen, every single pixel on the screen is going to first look up what my normal rendered pixel would be. okay? That means it might be this ball, okay, or this sky, or this ground over here. But if you look, the pixels over here are going to get the ground, but then they have to decide whether they're inside the shape or outside the shape. If they're outside the shape, they shouldn't render that ground pixel. They should render a black pixel instead, okay? So it checks whether or not it's outside this box. If it's outside the box, it changes its pixel color to be just pure black, 0001, and instead of being the one it looked up. If it is inside of this box right here, it needs to check the image itself, okay? And it needs to look up the texture, okay, to decide whether it should be black or whether it should be the final rendered texture pixel, okay? We check the alpha of the original image to decide what we want to be, and then we finally do that final paint, okay? And thus, we get the final result, okay? This is known as a fragment shader, or sometimes as an image shader. It operates on pixels in the final rendered image. The cameras and the rendering system do their full thing, and then at the last moment, all the pixels go into the shader, and the shader function decides what to do with those pixels. Okay? It all happens on the GPU, and it's all available in the course code repo if you want to experiment. Okay? But shaders in our GPU cores, we got thousands of GPU cores. Why should we only give pixels to our GPU cores? Can't we give other things to our GPU cores? What if I want to make this lavish, rolling water? Okay, well, we can do this if we give the vertices of the object, of the model, to our GPU cores instead of giving pixels to the GPU cores. And that's how this works, okay? You can see that this mesh, this cube, has a ton of vertices, a ton of geometry in it. This is not normally how you do it, okay? But we want to be able to give each GPU core that we have a different vertex. The GPU core runs an algorithm that says, where are you in your X and Y position? Where are you on your Z position? And you feed that information into a sine wave or a cosine wave, and that is what makes you kind of go up and down over time, all right? And boom, there you go. Not a complex algorithm at all, okay? And it's a good thing because, again, these GPU cores are very crappy. Okay, but you can get really cool effects, can't you? Here is a very modern type of shader. This is called a geometry or mesh shader. This is a shader that is capable of creating new vertices at runtime in the shader itself, which GPU cores then tackle, okay? So instead of going into Blender and subdividing this cube like crazy to create a bunch of vertices that we can then use to make this nice lavish water mesh, we can actually have the shader create additional geometry itself, okay? Very cool stuff. There's a channel online on YouTube called Making Stuff Look Good in Unity. I love the name of this channel because it implies something about how most Unity projects look. What does it imply?
Well, usually Unity project doesn't look good.
Yeah, Unity projects usually look kind of crappy, okay? But it doesn't have to be that way. This channel, if you go look it up online, does a really good job at, for instance, showing you how to re-implement the No Man's Sky scanning effect. That's not as hard as you'd think. If you ever wondered how those beautiful Pokemon battle transitions, right? If you remember, and the screen swipes or something, or it comes in from the side, goops in from the side, right? How do you do that? It's actually extremely cool. You create a grayscale texture in Photoshop with gradients, and then you write an image shader that says, I'm going to make a variable go from 0 to 1 over 5 seconds. And every frame, I'm going to look at all of my grayscale pixels on that texture in Photoshop. And if the grayness is at a certain level, then I'm going to render these black pixels. Otherwise, I'm going to render the normal pixels. And thus, as that variable goes up, you take over and kind of, eat more of the screen. okay? And you can actually, in Photoshop, you can draw with different gradients the pattern that will display. Incredible, okay? One big tip for getting into shader and GPU and image effect programming, don't think of images as images anymore. What is an image actually? Oh, it's a pretty picture that I look at. I put it on my wall. No. What is an image from a data structure perspective? What is it?
An array of arrays of arrays.
A two-dimensional array that is probably full of a bunch of 4 float tuples. R, G, B, A. Okay? An image, a texture, doesn't have to be something meant for human eyes. It can also store information. Okay? That's why it's often called a map, right? You've heard of a light map. I want to show you something real quick. Okay, I'm going to unplug this so you can't see. Oh no, I'm streaming. Okay, I'm going to end the stream slightly early, everyone. I'm going to end the stream slightly. This is why I should come to the in-person, okay? In-person lecture. But on next time, on Monday, we're going to finish up this talk. We're going to program a really cool underwater effect with everyone. And so everyone online, see ya. Bye-bye.